Tonight on Most Daring. An airman pulls a hiker off a crumbling cliff. But a sudden death spiral threatens to doom them both. Plus,
oh God, please hurry. If these lions get out, I'm dead.
A base jump gone bad leaves a man hanging by a thread. Can a fireman reach him before he plunges to the ground?
Oh God.
And a teenage boy is swept away by a flash flood. And hope is sinking fast.
Grab the rope! Grab it tight!
Then, stranded office workers are minutes away from being burned alive, sparking a desperate last-ditch effort to reach them. Later, a valiant rescue effort ends with a 4-story fall. These are the incredible true stories of heart-stopping rescues caught on tape. And those who risk their lives trying to save others. This is Most Daring.
In Walnut Grove, California, 911 emergency receives a frantic call for help.
Please, God. Don't let me die like this.
Sir, what's going on?
I just made a base jump off an 1,800-foot tower. On opening, I struck a guide wire. My parachute wrapped around it, and I'm a few hundred feet from my death right now.
Thrill seeker John Agnos dangles more than 200 feet above the ground. Even worse, his parachute lines are slipping by the second.
Oh God, please hurry. If these lions get out, I'm dead.
Sir, you're not going to die. You want me to stay on the phone with you?
Please.
Sacramento Fire and Rescue arrive on the scene. But there's no way a ladder can extend high enough to reach John. To save the base jumper's life, firefighter John Clark must undertake the most challenging and dangerous rescue of his career.
I've never done any kind of rescue like this. We didn't train on anything like this. As far as I know, nothing like this has ever been done in this department.
Clark will have to hurry. John is fading fast.
Try and breathe.
Oh God.
Hey, John, you gotta stop, honey. You're gonna hyperventilate. Just relax. They're trying to figure out how to help you, okay?
Clark tethers himself to the guide wire and begins a slow and perilous ascent.
It was actually really hard to see him because he's so high up that the spotlights were barely even really lighting him.
Using all his strength, Clark pulls himself up the cable.
It was hard as hell. I'm just inchworming my way up. The biggest I could get would be the distance of my arm. When I thought I was halfway, I wasn't even close.
Finally, after more than 50 minutes of non-stop climbing, Clark reaches John, much to the base jumper's relief.
Until I saw John Clark pull up, I felt helpless. The parachute was slipping in between the lines, and I figured there's no way that I could hold out, and I would go plummeting down like that.
He was pretty upset. His legs were numb. He thought he broke both his arms, and he thought he was going to die because he's only hanging there by his parachute.
Suspended from the guide wire by only a safety line, Clark carefully rigs a pulley system, John's only hope of survival.
I dropped the system down to him, and he basically had to hook himself into our lowering system because I can't reach him. He's still about 6 feet below me.
It was getting kind of delirious at the end. I was trying to keep myself awake, too, because I figured if I'm passed out, then I'm going to be no assistance to them at all.
If John doesn't hook himself up just right, he'll plummet to his death when Clark cuts the lines to his chute.
My system itself was really not in any immediate danger unless that cable came loose. His system was in definite danger.
Clark slices the chute free. Luckily, the pulley holds. Now the firemen below can lower him to the ground.
He basically hooked me up to a pulley, and then the rope was run to the ground, and they belayed me down. That was the most trying thing I've ever had, just hanging there. That was precarious.
John is rushed away by paramedics, forever grateful to the man who went to extreme lengths to save his life.
It was an amazing climb he made, and did put his life at risk. And my eternal gratitude to the guy for putting his life on the line.
Altadena, California. Hiker Stephen Tolkien and a friend are stranded on a hillside that's crumbling beneath their feet.
Whatever we reached for crumbled in our hands to dust. The rock just dissolved. And every time we tried to put our foot down, it just slipped because it was like a landslide waiting to happen.
A crewman harnesses the first hiker. A rescue chopper quickly airlifts the man to safety. But when the rescuer returns for Stephen, there's big trouble. The brittle hillside gives way. The airman somehow gains a foothold and climbs to Stephen. He has to work quickly. The sandy cliff could slide again at any second. He manages to get one end of the harness around Stephen. But just as he's securing the other line, the entire ledge collapses. Stephen clings to the rescuer as they hang 500 feet above the canyon floor.
If the slightest thing went wrong at that moment, if the clip broke or if anything went wrong with the cable, I would die spectacularly at that moment.
But then, more trouble. The rotor's tailwind propels them into a furious spin, making it impossible to pull them into the chopper.
I just remember spinning around upside down, holding onto the guy, shouting over the noise of the rotors. Has this ever happened before? And he goes, no!
Suddenly, just above them, a path appears. The pilot seizes the opportunity and executes a perfect drop and ends their dizzying ordeal.
The helicopter pilot dropped us so lightly and gently that I didn't even feel it.
Back on terra firma, Stephen is tearfully reunited with his family.
We all took a stupid hike, and we went hiking where we probably shouldn't have gone hiking.
Thanks to a pair of fearless flyers, he'll live to hike another day.
If I could tell those firemen anything right now, it would be, I think that my children have a father because of you, and I thank you for that. And I say that not so much because of being lifted off the ledge, it was how they handled things when the ledge crumbled and when it went into code red. That's where it got critical. That's where my life was saved.
Somebody in their Royal. Yeah, he's probably in the middle of the freeway by now.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. 15-year-old James Ridgway was trying to retrieve his keys from the ledge of an arroyo when he was suddenly swept away by a flash flood. For more than 5 miles, he's been struggling to stay afloat. Firefighters Mike Martinez and Eddie Gutierrez prepared to battle the deadly water.
Me and Eddie, we just jumped into our harnesses, put our jackets and our helmets on, and we were running down the bank.
They know this might be their only shot to get James out alive.
As soon as we were down there, they were yelling that he was coming around the corner.
As the vicious tide pounds the helpless team, Mike gets in position with the rope. But before he can throw it, the kid goes under.
We saw him go into the water. We didn't know if he was going to come back up.
Seconds feel like minutes. Just when all hope seems lost, James pops to the surface. Eddie makes a perfect toss with the lifeline.
He came back up in front of me just in time for me to get him the rope.
They quickly pull him up from the torrid water.
As soon as I grabbed him, he went limp. He had no more strength at all to hang on to the rope.
James is lucky. Despite a few bangs and bruises, he lives to recall the day he almost drowned.
The water just kept pushing me further and further from the edge. Just the power behind it, I couldn't fight it at all. It just swept me away like I was nothing. It's made me think how lucky I am to still be here, because it's possible that I could not be here today.
Coming up, a brave fireman rescues a frightened man from a burning building. Now both their lives hang in the balance.
Hold on!
Plus, a fire aboard a fishing vessel sparks a dangerous high seas rescue. That's straight ahead on Most Daring.
New York City. A blistering inferno consumes the 12th floor of a Manhattan high-rise. As victims are rushed out to waiting ambulances, firefighter Patrick Barr makes a horrifying discovery.
People on the street were yelling that there was people trapped up in the upper floors of the building.
Jose Gallegos is spotted high above, being forced out his window by a wall of flame and billows of choking smoke. Patrick and the other firemen rush to the roof, fearing that he might jump at any second.
He was in bad shape, and he was very weak at that point.
With no time to waste, Patrick takes drastic action.
A couple of the firemen tied me up with the rope and then proceeded to lower me over the roof's edge.
The firefighter descends toward the window. Just as Patrick reaches him, Jose collapses into his arms. Even worse, he passes out. Patrick frantically wraps his legs around him to hang on. But the combined weight of the men is too much to reel in. The two are literally hanging by a thread, more than 100 feet in the air. Patrick can see some of his colleagues inside the building, but they don't realize he's there.
As I was swirling around with Jose, I just reached out one hand and punched a pane of glass to get the firefighter's attention.
It works.
Don't let go!
A team races to grab the rope.
That can't make it! Hold
on! Jose is pulled inside. Seconds later, Patrick finds firm footing, sparking a roar of approval from the crowd below.
The people on the street of Manhattan were applauding. So I just turned around and gave him a wave of acknowledgement. I was very relieved that it was over.
Jose survives, despite the terrifying moments he thought would be his last.
I pretty much knew that I was dying. When I saw the firefighter coming down, life came back to me. He hugged me very strong, and after that I lost it. I passed out.
Jose is rushed to a hospital suffering from smoke inhalation. He'll make a full recovery, all due to one man's unflinching bravery.
Once you help someone, once you save someone, there's no better feeling in the world.
Off the coast of Taiwan, the Coast Guard launches an urgent rescue operation in an angry typhoon. More than 100 fishermen are trapped between a raging fire and the churning sea. At any moment, they'll be engulfed by one or the other. It's too dangerous to try and reach them by boat. So the Coast Guard must perform the harrowing rescue from the sky. One desperate man snatches the lifeline by his fingertips. If he loses his grip, he's gone. Somehow, he holds on. With the ship sinking, rescuers push the limits of the safety line, airlifting as many men as possible. The combined weight strains the cable, plunging 2 men into the waves. The chopper pilot skillfully regains control, navigating them out of the water and away from the inferno. Against all odds, the Coast Guard manages to save them. One by one, the remaining crew members are also airlifted to shore. And not a moment too soon. Their burning vessel finally sinks beneath the surface. Thanks to the heroic efforts of the air rescue team, the fishermen survive this high seas drama.
Still to come, a courageous paramedic fights to save the life of a young woman pinned inside a mangled car.
She had a death grip on me a number of times. I did convince her that I'm not going anywhere.
Then later, rescuers face torrential turbulence as a river rafter's hopes are deflating fast.
When he went under, I really thought it was this young man's day to die. I thought we were not going to get him.
That's next on Most Daring.
Long Beach, California. After a high-speed crash on a freeway, firefighters arrive to find a compact car crumpled around a utility pole. Paramedic Jay Schaefer fears the worst.
Looking at the scene, approaching the car, I was pretty well convinced that this was not a survivable accident. That's when I heard Dawn yelling.
Incredibly, the young woman, Dawn Thompson, is still alive, but badly pinned. Crewmen scrambled to remove the roof of the vehicle. But even these hardened veterans are shocked by what they find.
There was a lot of blood, but we weren't sure where the blood was coming from. She's hanging upside down, in a lot of pain, and trapped, and not being able to move her lower extremities.
Jay tries to keep the young woman calm, but fears she could be bleeding to death.
Largest artery in your body runs through your thigh, femoral artery. If that is severed, you will bleed out quickly.
But before they can pry her out, they must first secure the unstable light pole. Working on the fly, firemen devise an inventive plan.
So we actually hooked up one of our ladder trucks to make sure that the pole was stable. Then we went ahead and actually removed the car from the pole, very gingerly put the car back up on its tires.
Fire crews furiously cut away the twisted metal with the jaws of life.
Hey, watch your feet, watch your feet!
Jay remains by Dawn's side throughout the agonizing ordeal, comforting her as best he can.
She had a death grip on me a number of times. I did convince her that, you know, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere.
Finally, after 2 agonizing hours, the young woman is freed from the grisly wreckage and rushed to a waiting ambulance. Amazingly, both her legs and her life are saved.
The next day, got off of work and went by the hospital to see how she was doing. Went into the room and was met by her mother and father. The overwhelming sense of gratitude that they felt was amazing.
Bangkok, Thailand. Fire rages through a high-rise office tower. It's out of control. More than 40 people are trapped on the roof. And there's no way down. The blaze began when an air conditioner exploded. It chewed quickly through the lower levels, cutting off people working on the upper floors. Blown-out windows send glass crashing down. But of greater concern is the fire racing toward the roof. It could reach those trapped in less than an hour. Fire crews set up a staging ground on an adjacent building. But no amount of water pressure or extension ladders can stop the flames from climbing higher. There's only one way out, and that's up. Rescuers swoop in by helicopter. 36 stories above the ground. Swaying in the winds, the airlift begins. Panicked office workers grab hold of the lifeline. Suspended more than 500 feet in the air. Some are quickly dropped on a nearby rooftop, while the chopper races back for more people. Meanwhile, the flames continue their deadly ascent toward the top. But in the end, every last person on the roof is carried off to safety. The skyscraper is left in ruins, burned to its shell. The fire is one of the worst in the nation's history, turning a brand new building into a towering inferno.
Coming up, kayakers capsize in a raging river. Can a rescuer reach them before they're swept away?
We were inside this hell river, and it could have killed us.
Plus, cops rig a makeshift net to break an intoxicated man's deadly fall. When Most Daring returns.
Bell County, Texas. This lazy backwoods stream is a haven for water recreation. Torrential rains will turn this gentle stretch of river into a swiftwater nightmare. Caught up in the violent maelstrom are 2 kayakers, a man and his son-in-law, Nelson Huerta.
We were inside this hell river, and it could have drowned. It could have killed us.
Alerted by a 911 call from a witness, local firefighters rush to an upstream bridge and devise a hasty plan. A crewman rappels down, hoping to pluck the men from the river. He'll only get one shot. Nelson races closer. The fireman grabs his hand, but the furious current tears him from his grasp.
When I had grabbed his hand, I actually pulled him into the bridge, and I had to let go because there's no way he was going to be able to stop that current.
His terrified father-in-law passes too far away for any attempt. With options running out, Howard Polden and the Starflight Air Rescue Team is called in.
We, as a crew, believed the kayakers were in some significant peril. This was not whitewater, this was flood water, swift water, and it could have cost them their lives.
But the two men are getting weaker. Nelson and his father-in-law can't hang on much longer.
You go underwater for a little too long, you get a little too much water inside your lungs, you know, you can feel like you ain't gonna come back up.
While the pilot holds the helicopter steady, Howard plunges straight for the kayakers.
And that's when they figured out, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Howard can swim to them and use the momentum of the river. We're gonna have to give him a lot of slack though. So they basically put me in the water. I'm all the way in, and I saw all the slack come out of the helicopter.
The plan works, but there's a problem. Nelson's father-in-law is still attached to his kayak and refuses to let go.
I went to try to get the cinch collar over his other arm, but it wasn't happening. And then I realized that he was still attached with a tether to his kayak. I said, put your arm through the collar, and he told me, I don't want to lose my boat. And at which time I told him, let go of the boat in the nicest way I could.
At that moment, you know, we weren't thinking too straight. You know, we can always get more kayaks. You know, you're more valuable than a kayak.
Ultimately, the rescue is a success. Nelson and his father-in-law are fished out of the water and reeled into the safety of a nearby field. It's the end to a harrowing afternoon.
After being rescued and going through this, it gives you a new respect for people that put their lives on the line to help and rescue people like me, people in distress. Without them, we wouldn't be out that river. Without them, we could have died that day.
As for Howard Polden and the Starflight crew, they credit good training and a sense of adventure as the reason behind their success.
We did have to improvise and do something a little different, but it was all based on the standards of training that we utilize. I have the best job in the world, and there's times when I say, I can't believe they pay me to do this.
In Beijing, China, police find an intoxicated man on the ledge of a 5-story building, and he's refusing to come down. Fearing he might fall, rescuers scramble to rig a safety net. On the roof, a brave cop ties a rope around his waist in a daring gamble. The officer leaps and grabs him. But then, disaster. The man slips from the officer's grasp. He hits the net, but falls out. Police can only watch as the man clings to some iron bars, his grip slipping. Luckily, crews deployed a giant airbag just in time. He survives the fall without a scratch. He'll now get the chance to sober up thanks to those who risked it all to keep him from hitting rock bottom.
Coming up, a river rescue team makes a last-ditch toss to a drowning man.
I thought, man, if somebody up above is watching over us today, just let his hand grab that rope.
Plus, 3 courageous officers climb inside a burning car to save an elderly woman.
Flames are coming under the dashboard area through the floorboard.
That's straight ahead on Most Daring.
So, the General can insure almost any car and any driver?
We sure can.
Shelby County, Indiana. A rafting joyride over a dam has left a young man fighting for his life. Lieutenant Jared Parker and the Swiftwater Rescue Team know these notorious rivers all too well. They lost one of their own nearby just a few years before.
Got a little nervous. I knew this was a bad scenario. Not only is he stuck between the face of the dam and the boil line, but that river always pushes the debris to the center of the river. It's amazing how strong the water is when it's moving that fast.
The terrified rafter, Aaron Harcourt, is unable to free himself from the river's deadly grip. And his flimsy raft, the only thing keeping him alive, is deflating fast.
As time went on, you could tell he was becoming hypothermic. You see him rolling around and objects banging up against him. And you know that you just have a few seconds. This is the one that's really going to count. This is what we've trained for.
Braving the oncoming current, Lieutenant Greg Cherry takes point on the first rescue boat.
This is a very time-sensitive rescue. It's a high-risk rescue. Anytime you put members in a boat and put them in a river, you really heighten the chances of something going wrong.
Team members on the shore help guide their colleagues. Lieutenant Cherry tosses a lifeline from the boat, but Aaron's too disoriented to grab it. He flails helplessly, his hands only inches from the rope. And then, Aaron goes under.
When he went under, I really thought it was this young man's day to die. I thought we were not going to get him. We've run out of time.
I thought, man, if somebody up above is watching over us today, just let his hand grab that rope.
Suddenly, a miracle. Aaron grabs hold of the lifeline. He's fished from the killer torrent, grateful to be alive.
I was kind of lifeless underneath the water, just floating around, hitting the bottom. I was thinking about my brother and my family, and what's going to happen to them. Well, my brother's there, he's watching me die, you know. I felt something rush across the top of my hand, so I grabbed it. And then the next thing I know, they're pulling me in.
After we got him into the boat, I remember looking at him and say, "This is your lucky day," because I couldn't believe he'd come out of that.
With courage and determination, the Swiftwater Rescue Team faced their nemesis and exacted a small measure of revenge.
It was us doing what our jobs are to the best of our ability, using our training and experience.
Oh, I appreciate it very much. Words can't explain how grateful I am.
Decorah, Iowa. Police Captain Warren Leaps races to join 2 other officers at the scene of a flaming car wreck.
Yeah, I think they do. Someone has to our vehicle.
84-year-old Olive Sims is trapped inside the burning wreckage. and the officers must brave searing heat in an attempt to save her.
The flames were coming back, and they were getting higher, and they were getting hotter, and I knew that we had to do something now.
I tried to pull her out, but I can't.
Officer Sarah Stinson struggles to get the woman out, but finds that her leg is badly injured.
Olive was laying across the passenger seat in the vehicle, and she was unable to help at all, to move at all.
You got the door? Somebody grab that door. On this side, please. You got a extinguisher?
A blast from the fire extinguisher only creates more problems.
The combination between the white powder from the fire extinguisher and the smoke from the plastic, it just made breathing very difficult.
Let's go back this way, Tom, if we can.
Officer Thomas Courtney can see that Olive is only seconds away from being burned alive.
Flames are coming under the dashboard area through the floorboard.
We gotta bring her out. Okay.
Officers have no choice but to wrench Olive from the flaming death trap.
I yelled at Olive, and I told her that we were going to get her out of the vehicle.
Finally, they pull her legs free and drag the woman to safety. But with a broken vertebrae and a fractured leg, Olive is more seriously injured than anyone had realized.
To her credit, she never squawked once about her injuries or let us know how badly injured she was. You know, she is just a tough old bird.
Officers wait for paramedics, still gasping from toxic fumes.
You could hear on the video I was coughing and hacking because that was some of the nastiest stuff I had ever encountered.
The three rescuers soon recover, as does Olive Sims, who recalls their valiant efforts to pull her out.
I was in the car, and this man kind of yelled at me. And he said, "You have 10 seconds to get out of the car."
It was a moment none of the officers were prepared for. But when it mattered most, they rose to the occasion to save a life.
Can you really ever train for a situation like this? Most of the time, it's life's experiences that tell us how we're going to respond in certain situations.
I tried to pull her out, but I can't.
They saved my life, and they are wonderful.
Coming up, an entire community teams together to save a toddler from an abandoned well.
If he slides out of reach where he can't breathe, then we've lost him.
That's next on Most Daring.
Frisco City, Alabama. This vacant lot is a popular playground for neighborhood children, like 22-month-old DJ McMillan. But lurking beneath the grass is a hidden danger. An abandoned well that will be the site of a heart-stopping 13-hour ordeal. The crisis began when DJ's mother heard the child's panicked screams.
I looked down, I didn't see him, but I can hear him calling for me. He was calling Mama, and right then my heart just fell in my stomach. I just didn't know what to do.
Firefighter Clyde Anderson has never encountered a situation like this.
He was wedged in with his feet up, his head up, kind of a V shape, you know. It looks like maybe he fell over backwards.
Making matters worse, DJ is lodged 14 feet down with no way to pull him out. Fire crews scramble to come up with a plan. They set about drilling another hole next to the well in hopes of reaching the boy from the side.
We used Alabama Power. They came there to help, and they were a big help, but we still got in there with our shovels and other type equipment.
But the work is painstaking and slow. If they're not careful, the well could collapse.
I was afraid he might slide, and if the hole was much deeper, that he would slide actually out of reach. And of course, if he slides out of reach and he's where he can't breathe, then we've lost him.
In my own mind, I felt like I had lost him because I knew that he had been down there for a long time, and I thought that maybe he was going to suffocate.
After more than 13 grueling hours, rescuers are just inches from reaching DJ. Clyde is handed the delicate task of climbing head first into the hole to save the desperate child.
I felt inadequate. No matter how much training I had, I felt, boy, am I up to this? Can I do this? And so I was trying to make sure I remember what I need to do, how I need to do it, and minimize any risk to that baby.
Tense moments pass, and then Clyde emerges with DJ in his arms. Mother and son are finally reunited. Despite a few scrapes and a few tears, little DJ is going to be just fine.
I just couldn't believe how everything worked so perfect and how the whole community came together.
DJ's grateful mother will never forget the dedicated rescuers who fought to save her little boy.
I prayed for the Lord to send an angel down there to keep my son safe. And I believe that God did just that.
These are the stories of real people who owe their lives to the courage and sacrifice of perfect strangers.
I just told them from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
I hope they know that I'm thankful for all the work that they did that night to rescue my son.
Without them, we could have died that day.
Join us next time for more incredible rescues on Most Daring.